All right, I have another video for you, and today we're going to be talking about a little about self-defense. Is it biblically warranted for the believer to defend themselves? Associated with this understanding, there's a video that I want to show you where it concerns someone defending themselves, where someone is robbing a store, and the store clerk and another, it looked like two store clerks decided to defend themselves and rid themselves of the robber. But before we get into it, I do want to make sure that you know to subscribe to the Gospel Truth. Make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe and hit that notification bell to the Gospel Truth so you can stay in the loop with Gospel Truth. You don't miss out any interviews, debates, or commentaries. And once again, that is the only way that you're going to stay engaged with the Gospel Truth is by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Once again, self-defense seems to be a great topic, especially nowadays, where we see in different states where, especially California in particular. I'm from California, so I speak to California in particular. California has a law where if someone runs in and robs a store, you cannot do anything to stop those individuals. It's against the law, literally, to stop the assailant from robbing the store. And typically it is more, and then when the assailant or the thief or the perpetrator is caught, typically if they stole something, if it's not at least $1,000 worth of items being stolen, if the value of the item being stolen or the items plural does not equate to at least $1,000 worth, then that person is usually caught and released with no repercussions of the crime that they did. And so this is something that's going on in California, which is pretty much the reason why we see such a high crime level in LA. It has skyrocketed as of late, and this is why people are no longer afraid of robbing stores, robbing businesses, because they know that they won't even suffer any true level of justice that they deserve. So but let me show you this video of a store clerk, a couple store clerks who decided to defend themselves and stop the assailant. Be warned, there may be some foul language in this video, so that is just a preface to warn you. So let's take a look at this video and let's see what happens here.
God damn, ain't nothing you can do that. There's nothing you can do, man. So you got.
And you see the individual that's filming the video, he said there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. Right? And this is probably somewhere in LA. Chances are that once someone is robbing the store, there is nothing you can do. But as we see here, as we're going to see, should I say, we're going to notice that these store clerks decide to take the law into their own hands and stop this guy from robbing the store. At some point, you get sick of this mess, right? You get sick and tired of this kind of stuff happening. And once again, if you're not from California, you really don't know. And if you're from California, you totally understand what I'm saying here, that in LA, this is happening. This is really happening, and it's really concerning. So let's take a look.
Ain't nothing you can do, man, until the police come in.
There's nothing you can do until the police come in. Well, they're going to do something.
Hey, don't. Hey, ain't nothing you can do, man. Don't do that. Don't do that, man. Don't do.
All right, so you see the person that's at the store trying to buy something, he's telling the first store clerk to not do it. Don't try to stop him. Let him do what he's going to do. But obviously, this store clerk is not having it. As you saw, this dude was just trying to steal cigarettes. He was about to fill this trash can up, or attempted to put cigarettes in this trash can and walk out the store with it. That's what he was expecting that he was going to do. He was expecting to rob this store, fill this trash can up, and walk on out the store without an issue, right? Because once again, in California, if I believe this is in California, you can't do anything, right? It's against the law to stop them. So here it is. Store clerk said, oh no, we're not going to have this happening. Not at this store. And I believe this is 7-Eleven. This is not going to happen.
Do that.
All right, you notice the other store clerk comes in and begins to beat his legs with a stick. Yeah, no, you're like, Marlon, you're a Christian, you're not supposed to laugh. But I'm laughing at this because he's getting what he deserves. You walk up anyone's store, place of business, their personal business, or a place that they work out for a corporation. This is going to happen. This should happen, in my opinion. You should not have the right to walk into a store, rob it blind, and think it's okay. I don't care what the value of the items are. Now this individual is catching a beat down on his legs, and I know that hurt. And he's getting hit all across his shin. So anyone that got hit in the shins, you know that hurt. And he's catching it as he deserves. And he's saying, okay, begging. Yeah.
Whooping his ass down. That's all.
you hear? He tearing him up, and he's getting disciplined for his foul actions, right? I'm sure when he walked into the store, he wasn't expecting to get beat with a stick. Like I said, in California, that's expected, right? To walk in, steal, and leave, right? I'm sure you guys have seen footage of just rampant looting. Hundreds of people are looting stores and getting gone, right? These planned looting exercises. Adventures that people take on, and they're doing it without any repercussions, right? Because that's why they're looting. That's why they're doing it. Because they know if they get caught, they could just get caught and released. But this individual is catching a pure beatdown with a stick, right? He's catching a pure beatdown, right? Justly, and he deserves it.
Whooping your ass. That's called whooping your ass.
Yep, and that's what it's called. It's called getting a beat down. I won't repeat what he's saying, but that is what it's called, right? He got exactly what he deserved. A pure, unadulterated beat down, and got his legs beat. And his legs are going to be extremely sore because the other store clerk was anchoring back with two hands, all the way reaching back, reaching full thrust and driving that stick into his legs. Full thrust. So he's going to feel that pain in his legs for a long time, and justifiably so. There is no reason that anyone should have the right to walk into a store and rob it, as long as they stay under $1,000, and walk out the store scot-free and use the stuff that they stole and treat it as if it's there and they got it rightly, got it fairly. We know that's not the case. So this individual deserved his beat down. He deserved to get what he deserved. He deserved to get that beat down, that smack down. Now, would it be the necessarily safe way to do things? I'm sure the store clerks, after thinking about it, probably know that it wasn't necessarily safe to do that. And so they probably was like, maybe I should approach it that way. But nonetheless, they did. And they stopped the guy from being robbed. They stopped the store from being robbed, and his legs got destroyed. Justifiably so. His legs got destroyed, and I personally am happy. Hopefully this sends a message to all those other criminals out there that think they could just go around stealing, right? I'll tell you what, man, a lot of these robberies and these people stealing, all this stuff would stop if they knew that these stores had guns and ways to protect themselves, right? A lot of stuff would stop. But the problem is that many states in the U.S. don't allow this kind of action. They don't allow these stores to have guns. They don't allow these personal people to carry. A lot of these states don't. And so, especially in the more liberal states like California, New York, and so forth, they don't allow stores to be armed in this fashion to stop robberies, right? And so it is becoming upon people sometimes, man, to take it and beat their legs and tear them up, send a message and saying, like, this is not going to be tolerated anymore. Right? This is not going to be tolerated. So the question is, should we have the right as Christians to be able to defend ourselves? I think the Bible gives clear case for us to defend themselves. Let's check this verse out here. We read this over in Luke chapter 22, verse 35 to 36. It says, and he said to them, when I sent you out without money belt and bag and sandals. This is Jesus talking to his disciples. This is Jesus speaking as he's in the upper room. He's getting ready to be betrayed and go through the crucifixion and death for the atonement of our sin. And so this is Jesus talking to the disciples, because he knows that before Jesus Jesus knew that before this crucifixion, this betrayal, death was about to happen, that people were pretty friendly with them for the most part. Maybe they ran into Sadducees and Pharisees and so forth, and they had interaction, but for the most part, they were friendly. And so now things are about to change, and Jesus is letting them know, like, hey, things are about to go down now. So there may be reason for you guys to defend yourselves. So let's see what he says. He says, and he said to them, when I sent you out without money, belt and bag and sandals, you did not lack anything, did you? They said, no. The disciples said, no, nothing. No, nothing. And he said to them, but now, this is a transition, right? Jesus is saying, things are about to change here. Right? Things are about to change. But now let him who has a purse take it along, likewise also a bag. And let him who has no sword sell his robe and buy one. Now, this is, people have a variety of interpretations here. I believe this is an interpretation to give the believer the right to defend themselves against criminals, against those who are attempting to harm them. I think this is the proper interpretation, right? You may have a different, so there are some interpretations that see this more of a metaphor. No, I don't think this is metaphorical language. I think Jesus is speaking literally, that he's saying that the Christian has a right to defend themselves, right? And so when we get into situations like we just saw in this world, I think the Christian does have right to defend themselves. Obviously, in the instance of attempting to decide if you want to defend yourself or not, you want to take several things into consideration. One thing I would take into consideration is it safe to defend yourself? Is it a safe way to defend yourself? Are you going to cause more harm, more difficulty if you try to defend yourself, right? Another reason is, are you defending yourself because someone's trying to rob you, or are you trying to defend yourself because they're hurting you because you're a believer in Christ? I think when it comes to persecution, we are to turn the other cheek. When it comes to persecution, specifically as a Christian, as being persecuted because you love Jesus, you are to turn the other cheek. So I know many of you out there watching this video probably saying, what about the verse that says we should turn the other cheek and yada, yada, yada. I think the context dictates persecution, us as Christians being persecuted for Christ. In a situation where someone is trying to rob your store or try to harm your family or trying to do something to harm you in that fashion, I think it's right to be able to arm yourself and defend yourself, right? And so I think here, Jesus is clearly telling the disciples, I told you before not to take any money bag or anything, don't take anything, but this time around, yeah, sell your robe and buy a sword. I think Jesus is telling them to prepare to defend yourself. And if you remember the context of where the gospel was originally spread in Rome and so forth, the Roman roads and things like that, if anyone has done a lick of historical study, we know that those roads were extremely dangerous for sojourners, for travelers. And so these are the roads that the disciples would travel, right? As they traveled through and attempted to spread the gospel. Right? These roads are extremely dangerous. And so they did have situations where they may have had to defend themselves, not for the sake of Christ, but for the just safety in general. Right? And so a Christian nowadays, we can apply this to ourselves. Right? Should we have a gun? Should we defend ourselves? Surely we should. I think we have scriptural reason to defend ourselves. And we read over in Exodus chapter 22. I don't have the verse up, but in Exodus 22, there seems to be an indication or a teaching here concerning defending yourself against a thief. If you read chapter 22, there are two correlations here. One is saying if a thief comes into your house at night, you are right to defend yourself and even kill that thief, and you won't be guilty of bloodshed. You will not be guilty because he came in the night. But then it says in the daytime, if he comes in the daytime and you kill him, then you are guilty. And the reason this distinction is here is because the last resort for anyone is to kill someone or to take someone out for this, right? That is the last resort of anybody. That should be the last resort of anybody. It should not be this intention to kill or murder someone. That should be the absolute last resort. And so that scripture is giving clear indication that you have the right to defend your property. You have the right to defend your family from a thief. You have the right to defend things that belong to you as a Christian. And so, but there's a distinction that as a Christian, we should not be looking to try to kill someone. We should be looking to try to protect our stuff, right? But also preserve life, right? If someone catches a beat down like this man we saw here, Yes, he taught a beat down, but his life is still, he's still alive. He's preserved. And so I think that the scriptures that I pointed out and the scriptures in Exodus, along with the scriptures in Luke, I think it shows that we have the right to defend ourselves. We have the right to protect ourselves, protect our belongings, protect our businesses, protect our families. There, once again, we don't want to be so Christian and so meek in our behavior that we are unwilling to stand up for what is right, right? That we're willing to take a backside and say, oh, it's just me and my Bible in my corner, and I don't need to defend myself. No, you have an obligation in many cases to stand up and defend what is right. And sometimes that results in bloodshed, and sometimes that results in just beating someone like this. Let them know, like, hey man, we're not going to tolerate that. Now, should you go around starting fights? No, you should not. But I do encourage believers to train in martial arts, to take defense classes, to be able to defend themselves if need be. Fighting and killing should be the last resort as a Christian. But there may be a time where you may have to do so. You may have to do so. Okay, so it's important that we understand the distinctions there, and that we don't make that our first choice, but we make that a last resort option. And so I think the Bible supports us in that effort. I think the Bible supports us in having the right to defend ourselves. And so I think that we're good. I think, biblically speaking, I think we have good grounds to ensure that we are not being robbed blind, and that we have the right to defend ourselves if it comes to that. All right, that's all I have for you in this video. But if you want to make sure that you are geared up and stay engaged with God's truth, you want to make sure that you subscribe to the Gospel Truth, right? Hit that notification bell. Don't miss out on any shows, interviews, commentaries, or debates. All right, take care. God bless.